Hi everyone, Steve here, and let's talk Capturing the Friedmans. This is a really provocative, controversial, contentious film. It's directed by Andrew Jarecki. You may have seen a Netflix series that was on last year called The Jinx, where I sort of won't tell you the whole story, but basically a man who was accused of a series of murders is actually interviewed by Jarecki, and it's Jarecki's kind of quest to get to the truth. And this film is a similar sort of narrative where he's taking a person or a number of people who have been accused of particular crimes, and he's really wanting to get to the bottom of it by interviewing a number of people involved in the life of these people. Capturing the Friedmans was a hugely successful film at the time, and I think it will provoke a really interesting debate in the classroom. Not so much as the film as a sort of for the ethical reasons of its subject and the themes of its subject, but also as a piece of filmmaking, as a piece of documentary filmmaking, and the whole idea around particular facts that are being suppressed and particular facts that are sort of being made to look ambiguous and murky when perhaps they weren't that ambiguous or murky in the first place. So it's really a question on ethical filmmaking, and a number of questions that really need to be asked is how much objectivity can we expect from filmmakers? Where should filmmakers sit in their process of making a movie? Should they be making a stand against the film? Should they be making an argument? Should they be taking one side over the other and trying to convince you of that particular stand? If they do that, of course, those films can be considered films that are trying to persuade you in ways which actually isn't ethical of the film. That somebody like Michael Moore is often criticised for taking too much of a left side and not actually understanding what's happening on the right hand side. Are filmmakers responsible for taking a stance, presenting their own viewpoints? And is this the problem with the film, that we actually don't see a strong viewpoint of the director, or actually do we see a strong viewpoint of the director? And is he trying to confuse us all by making things ambiguous when really they weren't that ambiguous? Should filmmakers be allowed to suppress facts? And this is a question that keeps coming up in this course, and it certainly is there. There were things that Jarecki could have put forward, but he didn't put forward. And why didn't he put those forward? LA Times journalist Kenneth Turns said this about the film. Jarecki decided to structure the project around his refusal as a filmmaker to say if he thought the Friedmans were guilty or not. And it is with this pose of neutrality that the film's troubles begin. He is a journalist, of course, and this is a journalist's point of view. I'll be interested to hear what the journalist students have to say about this film in the classroom. Did Jarecki need to make a stronger stance and build an argument around the stance that he took? Like I said, there are things in the film which for the police seem very clear and cut, and that Jarecki muddies to create a more dramatic story. And is this the problem of ethics and the film and Jarecki? Interested to hear what you say about that point. Where does the filmmaker stand? Now, it would appear when you're watching the film that the filmmaker is kind of neutral, where he sort of gives both sides of the argument. But he has said since the film has come out that he felt that Jesse, the son, was wrongfully convicted, and he was sort of convicted amidst a climate of hysteria. Now, Jesse did serve 13 years in prison. He was released in December 2001. Jesse Friedman and director Jarecki have continued to fight for the release of documents and other relevant information that could prove Jesse's innocence. And I think that point is interesting to know, and that point is interesting to make, because what you're actually getting in this film is a director who clearly believes something, but he's not putting it so clearly into the film. It's there if you look for it and you know it's there, but there is something about him trying to appear maybe ethical in giving both sides of the argument when clearly he is very much in Jesse Friedman's camp. Think about the social actors also and their role, and Jarecki, and how he would have been given access to all of those home movies and all of those footage and interviews with the family members. He would have been doing that with the proviso that he was going to portray them in a very positive way. Now, maybe the family isn't portrayed in a very positive way, but very much there is something about Jesse's innocence which Jarecki is trying to push in his own ambiguous kind of way. Do you feel sympathy for Elaine Friedman? And if there's one character who is demonized in this film, it's actually Elaine. And a lot of people have said that she's unfairly dealt with and unfairly treated. Think about how her children characterize her in the film, right? And does this conflict or agree with your understanding of her character? So really think about that and how she's portrayed and why the film is portraying her in a particular way. Now, Elaine doesn't actually, she doesn't support her husband in a way that perhaps some would expect her to. And you could make a claim that Jarecki is portraying her in a negative way because Elaine negatively is sort of saying some things about her husband, even though she doesn't come out and say it in those black and white terms. So the film asks what really happened. Now, it doesn't accuse, and the question I've got for you is, do you find this frustrating as an audience member and as a critical thinker in the classroom, whether you wanted the film to actually say, this is our argument, this is what we think happened. And in another film like The Thin Blue Line, it makes a much stronger case for what they think happened, what the director thinks happened. It's an unsettling film, Capturing the Friedmans. And it's unsettling because it ends with a lack of resolution of actually what happened in the basement in this house. And that's, again, something to think about. How do you feel about the imprisonment? Depends where you sit ethically. So with the people that were accused of particular crimes and jail sentences that came, your view on that will depend how you watch the film. If you watch a film thinking, I'm really interested in this film that make us a lot of questions about what we're hearing and what we're seeing and memory, because the film is really about memory. If you're interested in that, you will be completely satisfied with this film. If you're taking a more social ethical stance with what these people are accused of doing, and if you believe they are absolutely guilty, you will find that you'll be very uncomfortable with the way that the film portrays their imprisonment, I would think. All right, I just want to play you. So this is something called Chicken Pickens magazine. This is a clip from the movie, and just think about it as a way of it being a performative mode. So think Bill Nichols in his 5 modes. This is very much a performative mode. Think what we're seeing here. We've got a talking head, which is the detective, and then it cuts. And the whole film kind of moves from eyewitnesses, you've got home footage, another detective, she's retired, so of course she's in her kitchen having a cup of tea. Think about the way that these witnesses who are sort of giving testimonials in the film are constructed, the way that maps are used here to create a sense of place. And I think it's very interesting that the way that the film constructs these eyewitnesses, but then questions these eyewitnesses by what they're actually seeing. Like here you've got the detective, and I think he's talking about there being piles and piles of porn in the basement of this house. But then when they show the basement and they show the police photographs, you don't actually see what he's remembering that he saw. So it's things like that the film's constantly raising, issues that it's constantly raising, to really question how much we should be believing the eyewitnesses who are giving testimonies. And again, I think it's about Jarecki asking some serious questions about, is the evidence more than just memory of these people? And that's a real problem. And I agree with him. I think that was a problem with the court case, where a lot of the evidence that was actually being put forward was memory based, right? It was memory based. And I mean, here you've got some actual archival footage from the time of the news report. Okay, so just a final thought here. When we watch Capturing the Friedmans, then we are ourselves caught in a situation of ethical ambiguity. Now, this is Vicky Bell. She wrote the article that appears this week, which is a very good article. And think about that when you're watching the film. When we watch Capturing the Friedmans, then we are ourselves caught in a situation of ethical ambiguity. This is the thing about this film. This film is not so much about what is being shown on the screen. It's about the audience and how the audience is responding to what's being shown on the screen. Unlike most movies where they're constantly telling you what to think at particular moments, this film is saying, you decide, you tell us. On the cover of the film, it says, who do you believe? Right? The film is asking you to make that decision. Gone is the whole idea of the viewer being a passive audience member where they sit and they are just told facts and shown images. This film refuses to do that. It gives you a number of different sides, which I think, again, is really interesting. Okay, we'll leave it there. Capturing the Friedmans, it's a real conversation starter, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. All right, see you soon. Bye for now.